Welcome back. Now, the continued rate of building collapse in Nigeria is now very alarming, and stakeholders are worried and wonder if there will ever be an end to this trend. In the past 4 decades, statistics show that over 460 buildings have collapsed in the country at an increasing rate yearly. Although the menace is said to be a national problem, it occurs mainly in the cities of Lagos, which remains the epicenter of the collapse incidents. After the collapse of the 21-story building in Ikoyi, we saw at least 45 people dead, including the developer. Nigerians thought the state had seen the last of building collapses until several others followed. Joining us to discuss the incessant building collapse in Nigeria and what stakeholders and government are doing to curb it is a real estate professional, Dr. Olumide Emmanuel. It's good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. As you've heard, it is disheartening to see buildings still under construction, for that matter, collapse in Lagos, which indicates a very serious problem. I'd like you to assess the situation, please.
Well, it's an unfortunate situation we found ourselves in. When it comes to the real estate industry, there are 4 major areas you can play in when you want to go into the real estate sector. Number 1, you can be a regulator, which is where the government and the professionals come in. Number 2, you can be a realtor, where you are just more like an agent connecting people to their desired land or houses. Number 3, you can be an investor, where you just invest into the sector to be able to get a return. And then number 4, you can be a developer. And all the different stakeholders all have a part to play in ensuring that there's sanity within the sector and within the industry. So from my own research, investigation as a practitioner, from what I've seen, there is enough blame to go around, because many times people blame the government, and sometimes they blame developers, they blame this, they blame that. But if you really begin to look at it holistically, you realize that everybody has a part to play. So for instance, a man bought a plot of land and he decides that he wants to develop. And in order for him to develop, he needs to have an architectural design. So he calls in a professional called an architect. The architect designs, but the architect alone cannot design what needs to be done. So they bring in structural engineer, they bring in other people to play their own part. When they are through with all the designs and all the things that they need to do, then they go to the government. Now the government is supposed to now approve whether that building you want to build should go ahead. So it therefore means that no building should commence without an approval. Now the job of the government is also, okay, you want to build, number 1, for you to build, this is what you have shown us you want to build. Can the land carry it? So we talk about soil tests. So there has to be the regulatory part ensuring that the land itself, because many of these land are reclaimed land. And when people don't have a sense of history, you can come into a place today, it's ordinary land. Many of us know what's happened in the Bar Beach now, they call, we have, but if you are there 30 years ago, you know what has happened, Morocco. If you say Morocco now, people don't know what Morocco is. So, but people that have a sense of history can say, this place used to be a dung ilo, this place used to be a swamp, but what you are seeing here is reclaimed land. You can't build this kind of 12, 15, 20 story on it. The maximum you can do is 3 because of the soil. But someone that is buying land today is not aware of the history of that land. But when you now go for approval, the government that is a continuum is supposed to now be able to say, oh, no, you can't do this on this land. We cannot give you an approval. After you get the approval, you begin to build. You are supposed to use professionals. At every stage of the building, people are supposed to be able to come to say, okay, this is what's supposed to be done. What's supposed to be done has been done. They take it, you move to the next stage. Then we talk about the professional. Now, how do people get approval to build on a land that is not supposed to be built on? Connivance. Now, but that connivance we are talking about, is it the governor? No, there are civil servants. There are people in different agencies that will now know that, okay, this place is government acquisition. You are not supposed to build here, or this land cannot carry this, but by the time you settle the boys, they will approve it. And then everybody turns the blind eye, hoping that nothing goes wrong, until something goes wrong and find ourselves in the situation. Then we go to the other aspect of the building material itself. I hope you know that there are a lot of materials in the market today that are inferior. So some of the iron rod that people are buying, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches, it can't carry nothing. So, but we have another agency of government again that is material testing, to even test the material, to be sure that this iron rod that they say is 12 mm, 50 mm can carry the load. But now the Standard Organization of Nigeria that is supposed to be sure that, okay,
you took the words right out of my mouth.
That is supposed to be sure that, okay, this thing that is being used is, so because, so it's everybody. So if we, the people, can all play our part. You that is going to the building, you know you have approval for 12 floors, or you have approval for 6 floors. Why do you want to add extra to it? When you know, say you can carry it, or guy can carry it. So everyone, there's enough blame to pass around, but we all need to begin to look into this holistically from our different point of view to ensure that things are done the way it's supposed to be done.
Some will say that the root cause of this, because building collapses are more prevalent in Lagos, for example, as against every other place. And statistics says that the housing deficit in Lagos is about 3 million. That means there's pressure on the system itself.
Yeah.
And that alone would necessitate all these lapses you've mentioned. But some people have also mentioned also that the ease of doing business in Lagos State is very poor. And by creating probably major hurdles, it's almost difficult for anybody that wants to build wants to develop a property in Lagos State to do it without greasing palms, so to speak. So ultimately, you're almost setting yourself up for failure. Talk to us, how do we address these two cardinals?
Okay, well, I'm a practitioner, so I will tell you that what you have said is the reality. The government is doing a lot, but they can do more. In July, we're hosting a program, the Global Real Estate Executive Boot Camp, and we're bringing majority of the government agencies to come, and we're bringing people that want to go into the real estate to come, because we train people on real estate business, how to start the business, how to grow the business, so that we can raise new set of people, a new breed without greed, and sanitize the system, because we have a lot of charlatans that have come in because of the low barrier to entry. So when it comes to government, I agree with you. For instance, if you want to do anything in the Lagos State government today, I can assure you, if you have a building approval, a building design, everything, and you get to the state government to say, I want to do approval, they will tell you that that design is not okay, this one is not approved, because almost, and I repeat, I'm non-national, almost all of them have a private practice. So in order for your building to be approved, you have to give the architectural design to the company of the civil servant. You have to give the structural design to the company of the civil servant. As long as it is their company that did the design of the building and the architectural design and the structural design, and they have collected money for that, the building will be approved, because they are the ones that designed it for you. So the realities are there. If you have anything to do, this is why we say we the people. It's not that the governor or the deputy governor went to meet them to say collect. The system, the governor just came in. It's about to enter second, and this thing has been there before the governor came. Many things, one of the solutions is automation. When we automate a lot of these systems, the same way you can open an account and you upload this, upload that with minimal human face. So if they say, okay, this is the land, upload soil test, you upload soil test. And the soil test you are uploading, because everything is now, is done by a company that is certified. For instance, now in accounting, in auditing, we have what we call the big five. Yeah. If you mention any of the name, they know. So when you now say, okay, these are people that do soil test, so we can have a list that anything soil test in Lagos, so we have approved these 5,000 people. So once you bring a soil test, if you call one of those 5,000 people to do a soil test, once they do it, they will upload it on the government system. When you want to do approval, you don't need any face, you just upload it. It will tally with what that company has already uploaded. They will know that pass. So you don't need anybody. The professional has said, I've done soil test for Mr. A. Mr. A wants approval, he has uploaded the soil test. Architectural design, same thing. We have Architects Association, we have Structural Engineer Association, we have Surveyor Association. Everything should be done with professionals and automated. You don't need to see anybody to approve your building. And by the time you automate everything, we eliminate all this human being, everything will be done. But that's where we are. Do you know, we have a property we are building now, 12 units. We got the CFO during the days of Fashola in his first term. We got the CFO. But we're looking for investors to say, okay, let's do joint venture. Finally, we got people in 2020, COVID and all those stuff. When it was time to do the approval, we were on it for almost 2 years. First, they said they want to verify CFO. That Fashola sign. We brought the original. They said they need to verify. I brought the original. I said, this is the original. This is the governor's signature. They said they want to verify. It was not automated. They say it is in the basement, because they were waiting for something to be dropped. My lawyer kept going, this is the original. Are you saying you don't have record? They say they need to verify. Almost 2 years verifying a CFO that was signed by a governor in Lagos State. Why? It's not on the system. It's not automated. Things are supposed to be. So once you bring a CFO, once they check the number, prove. Do you know you can go to the state now to say you want to verify a land and you won't get all the data? There are lands that you are going to go now, they will tell you the land is free. Come back to the same land. Government have sold, given document for a land in this country. And 7 years later, we CFO, you go back to the government, they say the land is acquired. How do you give somebody CFO 7 years ago for a land that you are now acquiring 7 years later? Because there's so much going on. But I want you to know a lot is being done. Because I'm involved with Real Estate Development Association of Nigeria, the government. I know what they are doing. A lot is being done, but more needs to be done. Because this problem is with the people.
Very good, Dr. Emmanuel. Obviously, this is a multifaceted scenario you're giving us. So, talking specifics here now, I'm adding several floors to existing pre-approved structures without taking into consideration the structural integrity of a building should be criminalized ordinarily. So how strong are building codes in Lagos or Nigeria, as it were? And of course, when you look at the scenario, the last two buildings, the one that fell in Ikoyi, and of course the latest one that we're looking at the visuals here, were due to structures being added extra. So who should be blamed for that? Because the issue of enforcement also comes to it.
Yes.
When you look the other way, they said, okay, fine, we didn't give approval for this structure to be added. Then who's to blame? And you allowed it to be constructed to that level.
And don't forget, these are investors' money. Because we're looking at loss of life. Somebody else, there are many loss of lives that are not seen. Because somebody else has borrowed money to invest in that building. Somebody else has put all his investments, all his retirement benefit in that building. So the building has collapsed, the owner have died or not. Who you go and meet? So let me say this. One of the things we need to look at is we need to ensure that the people that needs to be dealt with are dealt with and it is visible. Have you noticed that all this building collapse that we have had, the government will clamp down on the building, they will say we will demolish every other one, and nothing will happen. Have you ever seen the government now say, this is Mr. John, he's the one that signed the approval, we have sacked him, or he's in the FCC now? That is the problem. Because when you now penalize the developer, who is wrong and is justified to be penalized, and you don't penalize the person that approved the back door, you don't penalize the company of the director or the company of the, at the end of the day, it will continue. Because this thing is like a cartel. Everybody knows everybody, they know the way they do it. So until all of us are ready to do what is right, we will continue to have this problem.
Okay. I'm happy you mentioned something about, because let me try and deviate a little bit. I'm happy you mentioned that you're having some sort of fire chats where you'll be bringing eggheads together to try to vista into this problem. Because I've been speaking with a lawyer that said that we are sitting on a time bomb, which is the fact that, I will not want to mention names because several of them are popular. Several of these big companies, real estate companies that come out to say, we have 250 acres in Ekpe, Ibejuleki, Lakwe, and they said that they all have government consent. They all have this, they all have that. Come and buy a piece of the future. And there are talks that on the surface, it looks true. It looks okay. It passes all the tests. But when you begin to dig beneath, you find out that these people are selling what they don't have. And when the time comes, and when that place actually gets developed, that there will be problem. Because several of these lands that are being sold, like you mentioned at some point, that these are government properties. Talk to us.
Okay. Now, I've been in the industry since 1998. Yes. I've been behind the scenes. So many of the guys that are doing big stuff right now, building new cities, they are people that I trained and mentored. Okay. And that's why we're doing this training, to also help people. And I can tell you that there is so much problem in the sector. And that is why we host meetings like this to say, even some of the people that I have trained, they have made mistakes. Because sometimes you go there, if you go to the government and say you want to go and do a search, 15, 20,000, you can go and search and say, is this land free? And they will give you a report from the government that the land is free. 2 years later, somebody else has gotten a position, is now a local government chairman, is now a senator. They say, I need that land. They reacquire a land they have told you was free. Because it's now better. Now everybody is talking about free trade zone, Dangote refinery, but people have bought that land. The land belongs to a family. Before Dangote ever dreamed that he wanted to do refinery, somebody owned the land. It belongs to a family. But because of the land use, every land belongs to the government. So the land belongs to a family. Those families have sold the land to people, which they have the right to do. But because there is now overriding public interest, government now say, I want to come in, they now do what is called a cession. They can now excite us, okay, all this land we have acquired, but you as a family, we give you this portion. Okay. So those families start selling that portion. But as they are selling that portion, if government is selling this portion to say Dangote wants to do refinery, the same government will now look and say, if Dangote is, the value of this land will be high. How can we just leave it for them? They reacquire again. But the family has sold. So there is a lot of stuff in that middle. Another set of people are people that believe that majority is a number. That if we are many, we will beg government. You know that they just demolished some houses in Nigeria, State airports, whatever. Yes. Those houses they demolished. The cases have been on. The people buying the land know. Even though everybody is crying on social media now, they know that this land they shouldn't buy it. They know they shouldn't build on it. So how they bought, they built, they got approval. But now when they came to demolish, do you know that they only demolished maybe about 30? They are supposed to demolish like 250. But because of all this, sorry, beg, about 200 that should be demolished is not demolished. So government now shifted for them.
Because I'm sure we always know that people like you always advocate that real estate is a sure investment. But when you start getting into this, into
Nigeria, you see, the problem is not, in Nigeria you can do everything right and still be wrong. Yeah. Okay. Because I tell people, you need to understand your economic environment. Nigeria is a chaotic and disorderly economic environment. You don't follow the economic policy or principle that you read in book smart and street smart. In Nigeria is a chaotic environment because even the government themselves does not get themselves. They are still trying to understand things, and that is why we say that some of these opportunities we have, where people can come, we are bringing the one we are doing in July now. We are bringing 5 government agencies, regional urban planning, approval, the people, material testing, all of us we face ourselves, and we'll say, but Mr. Man, this is this. You are the one that this. So we face it. What do we do about this collapse? This collapse. All these boys that are talking, this one city, they do that, are building city. They are all coming. Everybody will face everybody. Well, come and 1 week fully residential. Let's face this thing and stop this and sanitize the sector.
Hopefully, it will be another talk shop. Like we've had so many conferences like that, and at the end of the day, something concrete will come out. Yeah,
it will, because this time around it's private sector led. In partnership with government. It's not that, sometimes when government is doing something, people don't trust government. They say whether they are packed. But these are stakeholders that have collected money from people that are also having problems of approval, problem of this, problem of that. And government is also selling land now. In those areas, government is actually selling land to people. Okay. So like you said, you need to investigate before you invest. Because just as we have irresponsible organizations, we also have irresponsible investors that are mentally lazy. That